Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Angela and today we're going to be talking about the best books I read in 2023. These are the books that I absolutely did not want to put down, completely immersed me and left me staring at blank walls at 1 a.m. in the morning. I hope you find some new recommendations amongst them. Kim JiYoung, born 1982, brought me out of a reading slump last year. I initially picked up this book because it's tiny, it's 150-ish pages. This is probably one of the smallest books I read in 2023, but I think it's gonna be imprinted in my memory the longest. Kim JiYoung, born 1982, is a simple story, just a catalog of a woman's life. Kim JiYoung is South Korean. She is in her early 30s, she's married, she has a kid, and one day she starts embodying other women's voices, a down-to-the-face level imitation that happens randomly, and her husband starts to worry and takes her to a therapist. The rest of the book, apart from the vexing, gut-wrenching ending, is a very clinical account of Kim JiYoung's life, her childhood, her teenage years, her early adulthood, the beginnings of her married life. On page, the life Kim JiYoung leads is very ordinary and supposed to mirror a typical woman's experience in South Korea. But Nam-Joo also reflects on how a patriarchal system can shift, alter, and toy with a person's life trajectory and their ability to voice their emotions. This entire book felt like What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. It's I'm sad again, don't tell my boyfriend, it's not what he's made for. Legends and Lattes is a wholesome, cozy fantasy. It has the quietness of Kiki's Delivery Service and the earnestness of Frances May's in Under a Tuscan Sun. The stakes are negligible, the plot is predictable, the characters are not multifaceted, they're just sweet. This book was not life-changing for me, but it poured so much joy and happiness into my life last year. Viv is an orc who leaves behind a hardened, high-stakes existence to open a cafe in a small town. The residents of this town aren't accustomed to coffee, so they are a little hesitant to try Viv's bean water. Viv makes tiny decisions to better her coffee shop and turn it into more of a third place that resonates with the community. She hires a pastry chef, Thimble, who I loved with all my heart and soul. The dessert descriptions are chef's kiss. They are seared onto my brain. The coffee house atmosphere is immersive. I felt like I was in this book, in this world, in this coffee shop. Legends and Lattes was the perfect escapist read for me. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches opens with a group of witches meeting in Britain. These clandestine witchy meetings are bound by strict rules because powerful witches gathering around one another is dangerous. Knowing you are a part of something but also not being able to engage fully with that part of yourself can be lonely, and this solitary witchy existence is revealed through Mika Moon, who lands at Nowhere House to train a trio of younger witches. I loved the found family elements of this book, the grumpy sunshine romance, the whimsy and naughtiness of magic in Mika's world, and the distinctions drawn between kindness and niceness. This book was so wholesome and enchanting, and I definitely recommend it if you enjoyed The House in the Cerulean Sea. I was still reeling from the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches when I popped into Paper Cuts, my favorite Boston bookshop, last year to ask for a book rec. I wanted a read that was equally cozy but also had queer rep, and the staff suggested A Psalm for the Wild Built. A Psalm for the Wild Built is a sci-fi novella about Dex, an agender garden monk turned tea monk who travels to the woods to hear the sound of crickets. Dex stumbles upon a robot, Mosscap, who wants to dissect the question, what do humans need? A Psalm for the Wild Built's plot is simple and idle, but the way Becky Chambers writes feels like an antidote to a stormy day. The descriptions are warm and gentle and tender. I just loved how pleasant this book was to read. Prachi Gupta's They Called Us Exceptional was the very last book I read in 2023, and it left me unhinged. They Called Us Exceptional is a rare mix in a memoir. It is brutal in its honesty and compassionate in its delivery. Gupta exposes how an Indian American family can cut into their sense of selves in an effort to chase illusory perfections. She talks about the costs that come with exiting cycles of dysfunction, how simply speaking the truth is dividing but also freeing. They Call Us Exceptional is deeply reflective. It is written as a letter to Gupta's mother, and somehow that format made it more painful and gut-wrenching. This book is heavy. I needed to catch my breath and take breaks between chapters when I was reading it. I would absolutely not recommend this memoir if you are looking for a light read. Gupta's analysis of her family's unraveling is a slow, layer by layer excavation of her own pain, and Gupta reflects on that pain through the lens of swallowed lies, mental health stigmas, and generational trauma. Another book I was emotionally unprepared for last year was A Dowry of Blood. I thought this was going to be a fun little vampire romance, but it's actually a masterclass in writing about gaslighting. A Dowry of Blood is an epistolary novel, a confessionary tale about what drove Constanta, Dracula's first bride, to seek her freedom. Constanta is an easy character to like. She's a force to be reckoned with, strong, upheld by her own set of convictions. Dracula is a nightmare dressed up in lies, falsities, and obsession. As time wears on, Constanta finds herself caught in a messy web of relationships knotted up by emotional abuse. A Dowry of Blood is deeply disturbing. It left me feeling like there was something haunting the pit of my stomach, and the lyricism with which Constanta pens her murder confession made her fears, anguish, and confusion at the biting, blood-bonded situation she's in come across tenfold. S.T. Gibson's writing is dark and gothic, crisp and poetic. A Dowry of Blood was an unsettling book to read, but I could not pull away from the story. I knew I was gonna give Kaikeyi 5 stars when I added it to my yearly TBR. This was one of my most anticipated reads last year, and I was not disappointed. Kaikeyi pulls inspiration from the Ramayana to construct a character-driven story about a vilified queen who owns her actions and acts on her agency. Magic comes in the form of a binding plane where threads that bind people to Kaikeyi can be tugged on and manipulated, and I thought this was one of the most clever aspects of Vaishnavi Patel's reimagining. Like a lot of my favorite books, Kaikeyi is just a character exploration. It is a myth retelling, but unlike many myth retellings, it doesn't re-angle the original story. It rewrites it. Kaikeyi is not accurate to so many versions of the Ramayana that people uphold and revere. The narrative can come across as blasphemous in its unsavory sketch of Rama and its softening of Ravana, but the creative liberties that Patel took jigsaw fit with criticisms of the epic that my own mom shared with me when I was younger. So in a way, the feminist perspective felt nostalgic, and it was easier for me to look past the inaccuracies and see the story as a lustrous standalone fantasy depicting resilience in the face of rampant misogyny. Our Wives Under the Sea was an unexpected 5-star. I don't usually like horror books, but wow. This book was written like a symphony, had the melancholy of a tragedy and the slow, unhurried build-up tight with tension. Horror ebbs and flows into this dual perspective novel about Leia, a marine biologist who spent an unexpected amount of time in a deep-sea expedition, and Miri, Leia's wife, who is dealing with Leia's changed behavior after a trip. Leia comes back from a deep-sea expedition, water-obsessed and physically sick, and Miri is frantically trying to understand and cope with the changes. Our Wives Under the Sea is creepy and claustrophobic, but it's also lushly written. The ending left me with more questions than answers, but as I've sat in my little pool of confusion with the story, I've come to realize how much I love the oddness and ambiguity of Our Wives Under the Sea. Only a handful of books last year made me laugh out loud. I'm talking full-throttled, hands holding my belly. I can't suppress my too-wide smile even though I'm in public laughter. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one of those books. Douglas Adams' sci-fi novel about Arthur Dent, a human who finds himself traipsing the universe with Ford Prefect after Earth is destroyed, is just plain fun to read. The plot is widely absurd, interactions are over the top, and character and planet names are ludicrous. But The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy owns its ridiculousness and leans into it, which is why I love this story so much, and I can't wait to reread it. I read so many fantastic middle grade books last year, but my favorite was Front Desk by Kelly Yang. 10-year-old Mia Tang assists as the front desk administrator of the Cal Vista Motel, and I did not think a book about a family living in a motel could make me sob as much as this middle grade did. Front Desk juxtaposes the struggles of first-generation Chinese American immigrants in the 1990s with Mia's hopes and dreams of becoming a writer. Even though English is not her first language, the writing style is clear, straightforward, and memorable. It lends an honest voice to Mia, who faces so much harshness at such a young age. Front Desk doesn't shy away from depicting racism and cyclical poverty, but Mia remains courageous and full of heart in spite of all the goings on in her life. This book leans into realities while remaining hopeful, uplifting, and empowering, and if you love middle grade, I highly recommend this book. Those are my picks for the best books of 2023. Let me know what your favorite books of the year were. I love getting new recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys!